If I put a plate of Japanese curry in front of someone from Delhi, they might not even recognize it as curry. And that's the wild part about this dish. There is no single curry. There's no original recipe you can point to and say, this is the real one. In fact, the word itself was basically invented by people who didn't even understand what they were naming.
So today we're doing something different. Instead of 2 countries, we're doing 3. India, Japan, the UK. Same word, 3 completely different foods. And by the end of this, you'll never be able to use the word curry casually again. Let's find out how one word ended up meaning 3 totally different meals on 3 totally different continents.
Let's start with where the word even comes from, because this is where the whole story falls apart before it even begins. Curry comes from the Tamil word curry, and curry doesn't mean a dish, it doesn't mean a spice blend, it means sauce. Just sauce, that's the whole word. So when British traders started showing up in India in the 1600s working for the East India Company, they heard Tamil and Telugu cooks use this word curry to describe basically anything with gravy. And instead of learning the dozens of actual dish names, the dals, the sambars, the kormas, the vindalus, each with their own specific identity, the British just flattened all of it into one word, curry. Doesn't matter if it was a lentil dal from the north or a coconut-based fish stew from the south. Didn't matter if it was dry spiced or swimming in gravy. If it was Indian and had spices in it, the British called it curry. So right from the very beginning, before curry ever left India, before it ever touched Japan or Britain, it was already not one dish. It was a colonial mistranslation, a label of convenience invented by people who didn't understand the cuisine they were naming, slapped onto an entire subcontinent's worth of wildly different cooking traditions. That's not a controversial take, by the way. That's just what actually happened. Historians agree on this part. Now here's something that surprises almost everyone. There is no such thing as a single curry powder in an actual Indian household kitchen. Think about that for a second. In Britain, in America, and Japan, curry powder is a jar, a single blend you buy off a shelf, the same every time. But that's not how curry works in India, and it never has been. Indian home cooks build their spice blends, called masalas, fresh, dish by dish, sometimes even meal by meal. The ratio of turmeric to cumin to coriander to chili changes based on what you're cooking, what region you're in, what's in season, what your grandmother taught you. Punjab's spice profile doesn't taste anything like Kerala's. Bengal doesn't taste like Goa. Even within a single state, 2 neighboring families might make the same dish with completely different spice ratios passed down differently. So curry powder, that single jar, that single fixed blend, is actually a British invention. It was created in the 1700s specifically so homesick British colonizers, once they returned to England, could recreate something vaguely Indian tasting without needing an actual Indian cook in their kitchen. It's a shortcut, a commercial simplification of a tradition that was never built to be simplified in the first place. Which means the very foundation that curry as a global concept is built on, a standardized spice mix, doesn't even exist in the country everyone assumes invented it. Okay, so curry starts as a mistranslation in India and gets turned into a shelf-stable British commercial product. But it doesn't stop there, it keeps traveling, and this is where it gets genuinely strange. In the late 1800s, the British Royal Navy adopted curry powder as standard rationing. Why? Because it was cheap, it was shelf-stable, it could mask the taste of less than fresh meat on long voyages, and it required 0 regional authenticity. Remember, it was never authentic to any single region to begin with, so there was nothing to get wrong. And through British naval trade routes and colonial contact, curry powder made its way to Japan in the 1860s and 70s during the Meiji era, a period when Japan was rapidly absorbing Western technology, food, and culture as part of its modernization push. Here's the twist. The Japanese didn't get curry from India. They got it from Britain, secondhand, a British reinterpretation of an Indian word filtered through a Navy ration adopted by a country that had never had direct culinary contact with India at all. And then Japan did what Japan does with imported food. They completely reinvented it. They thickened the sauce using a roux, a French cooking technique. Butter and flour cooked together, nothing to do with Indian cooking at all. They added grated apple and honey for a mellow sweetness. They built the dish around potatoes, carrots, and onions, root vegetables that were becoming staples in Meiji-era Japanese agriculture. The result was thick, mild, almost gravy-like, served over a mound of white rice. Nothing about this, the roux, the apple, the sweetness, the mildness, has anything to do with what was happening in actual Indian kitchens at the exact same time. Today, Japanese curry is basically its own food category, completely independent from its Indian namesake. Curry rice is a staple school lunch across the entire country. Curry bread is a beloved bakery item. Katsu curry, curry sauce poured over rice with a crispy fried pork cutlet on top, might be one of the most recognizable comfort foods in Japan. It's estimated the average Japanese person eats curry multiple times a month. It's not a novelty food, it's not ethnic food, it's just Tuesday dinner. And if you served a plate of Japanese curry to someone in Mumbai and called it curry, a lot of people would tell you that's not curry, that's just a stew with curry powder mixed in. Both of them would be right. Meanwhile, back in Britain, while Japan was busy inventing its own version thousands of miles away, curry was evolving in a completely different direction, shaped by an entirely different set of pressures. Through the 1900s, and especially after Indian and Bangladeshi immigration increased following World War II and independence in 1947, immigrant families opened curry houses across British cities: Birmingham, Manchester, London's Brick Lane. But here's the thing about running a restaurant. You have to sell to the customers actually walking through your door, and British customers, for the most part, weren't used to the heat, the complexity, or the regional specificity of actual Indian home cooking. So chefs adapted. Less chili, more cream, thicker, sweeter, more familiar textures that fit into what British diners already expected a curry to taste like, an expectation that, remember, had already been shaped by that British-invented curry powder for over a century. And then, in the 1970s, one of the most legendary and honestly kind of hilarious origin stories in food history happens. The most common version of the story goes like this. A British customer at a curry house complained that his chicken tikka was too dry. So the chef, thinking on his feet, grabbed a can of condensed tomato soup, added some cream and spices, and poured it over the chicken to make a sauce. That dish, chicken tikka masala, went on to become arguably the most popular restaurant meal in the entire United Kingdom. In 2001, the British Foreign Secretary at the time literally called it a true British national dish. Not Indian, British. Whether that exact origin story is 100% true or slightly embellished restaurant folklore is genuinely debated by food historians. But the core fact isn't in dispute. Chicken tikka masala, in its most iconic form, was invented in Britain for British tastes using a can of soup as the key ingredient. It is structurally a British dish that happens to use Indian spices and an Indian name. So now let's put all three side by side, because at this point it should be obvious. None of these should really share the same name. India, no fixed spice blend, built fresh per dish, per region, sometimes per household. Intensely local, intensely varied. Japan, a sweet, thick, roux-based stew built around potatoes and carrots, inherited secondhand through a British naval ration, then completely reimagined using French cooking technique. UK, a restaurant-driven hybrid, shaped less by home cooking tradition and more by decades of adjusting to what a British customer on a Friday night actually wants to eat, sometimes quite literally invented in a British kitchen using canned soup. And it's not just the recipes that are different, it's the entire cultural role the dish plays. In India, curry isn't really a category anyone uses day to day. It's a foreign simplification of dozens of distinct named dishes with their own histories. In Japan, curry is standardized comfort food. The same curry roux cube gives you a nearly identical flavor whether you're eating it in Tokyo or Hokkaido, because it's largely made from mass-produced blocks, not fresh regional spice building. In the UK, curry is restaurant culture, Friday night takeaway, pub adjacent, built around a totally different social context than either of the other two. Here's where most food videos would stop and just crown a winner. India invented it, so India's is the real one, end of story, roll credits. But that's actually missing the far more interesting point. India didn't really invent curry either, because curry, as a single dish or category, was never something that existed in India to begin with. It was a label the British created to flatten an entire, incredibly diverse culinary tradition, one that spans dozens of languages, religions, and regional identities into one word simple enough for colonizers to understand. So the twist isn't which country did curry right. The twist is that curry was never really a dish in the first place. It's a name, a colonial-era mistranslation that somehow became one of the most eaten food categories on the entire planet, spawning two entirely new, legitimate, independently evolved cuisines in Japan and Britain along the way. And when you actually sit with that for a second, it's kind of remarkable. Most food evolves slowly, generation by generation, family by family, the way goulash drifted across the Atlantic. But curry didn't evolve that way. Curry evolved because a word got mistranslated, got carried across an empire, got adopted by a navy for practical rationing reasons, got exported secondhand to a country with zero direct culinary contact with the source, and then got reinvented completely separately, not once, but twice. There is no original curry to return to. There's just the word, and everywhere it landed. So next time someone tells you Japanese curry isn't real curry, or that British curry houses are inauthentic, technically, nothing wearing that name was ever really one dish to begin with. There's no original to be unfaithful to. If you want more of these dishes that share a name but turn out to be near total strangers, let me know in the comments. Pancakes, fried chicken, dumplings, I've got a list, but I want yours.